What I'm pulling up right now, guys, is the article that I have pinned to the top of the chat, why school choice will not fix the public schools. And I just want to talk about this because this is a topic that I wrote about and kind of complained about. I've complained about it pretty extensively, but I don't know. And I did do a podcast on it for my Actively Unwoke podcast, but I don't know that I've ever actually done a stream where I talk through my belief about why I don't think that school choice is the ultimate solution. Not that type of ultimate solution, different type of school choice is not going to fix the problem, essentially. And that's not to say I don't think there's value in school choice. I do think that there is value in school choice. I just don't ultimately think it's the thing that's going to save us from woke indoctrination in school. So I want to talk about this, and then I might have some other thoughts too that I just ramble on about for a little while because that's how we do it on late night streams. And I'll talk to you guys in the chat if you want. Hopefully my chat ends up fixing itself on StreamYard, but if not, I do have it on the screen and we're going to manage and make do. Okay, so first, the school choice lately has had a lot of controversy. There are a lot of people that have been coming down very, very harshly on Corey DeAngelis for I mean being basically the leading advocate for school choice in the country, saying it's not going to fix the problem, it's not the answer, all this stuff. And I do think there is some there. I don't agree with them why, but I also don't agree that Corey DeAngelis is not the problem in this, okay? I absolutely understand why Corey DeAngelis is pushing for school choice. I like that Corey DeAngelis is pushing for school choice. I ultimately do not believe school choice goes far enough because I really think the only solution to what has happened to the public schools over the last 40 to 50 years, the only solution is to separate government and education entirely, 100%. We need a complete and total revolution when it comes to education. And yes, I just used a word that made me sound like a communist, but we need to completely privatize education. It needs to be completely separated from the state in any and all ways. And then if a band of communists want to take over Vermont and set up their own little commie school, I don't really care as long as the state is not compelling anyone to go to it. That's, I think, the best that we can get to. Now, that is not to say that I don't think there is value in having the school choice conversation and in pushing school choice. I like that we are making headway in school choice. I like that the public is realizing that they don't just have to settle for the school that they were handed based on what town they chose to live in or buy a house in or could afford to buy a house in or any of those things. And the reason that I like it in terms of a strategy is I believe that it's a stepping stone. I don't believe that it's going to fix the problem in any way, which is what we're going to talk about, but I believe that it is a really important change management stepping stone in terms of turning the general public against the public schools, because that's really what we need to do. The schools are not going to get fixed by electing a politician. The schools are not going to get fixed by passing a bill. They're not going to get fixed in that way. The schools are only going to get fixed when we turn a critical mass of the public against the public schools. This is not a legislative problem. This is a cultural problem. Politics is downstream of culture. You don't fix culture through politics. You change culture, and then the politics will follow where the culture is going. Okay. So, why do I think that school choice is a really important stepping stone? Simply because it gets the general public used to the idea of choice. Every single person that is alive today in the United States has never known a time when they weren't compelled to go to the government school based on where they live. If you had a lot of money, you could go to a private school. Or like I had a friend in high school that he was really good at basketball, and our town did not have a lot of money, and we had a really shitty basketball team, and so he ended up getting an apartment in a city 20 minutes away, where so that he could go to the high school there because they were Division 1 and they had a better basketball team and there were more opportunities there for him. And so so we live in a time when people just don't think about the fact that there are other options out there simply because they have not lived in a reality in which those options were accessible. School choice begins to make those options more accessible. Like so there's a great movie called Cloud Atlas. I fucking love Cloud Atlas. Like I know I need to read the book. I haven't read the book. It's long. The movie is a commitment unto itself. The reason I bring up Cloud Atlas is because there is about a 2-minute section of that movie that I just listened to over and over and over again because there's so many profound quotes in a really condensed period of time, and it makes me feel good. I have it pinned to the top of my Disenraged Twitter account if you want to see the scene I'm talking about. But there is a specific line in that that says, "Oh God, I'm gonna flub it. Oh no, we can only cross conventions that we can first conceive of crossing. We can only break boundaries that we can first conceive of breaking. If if people do not know that going to another school is an option, then their brain very literally cannot conceive of breaking that convention, of breaking that boundary, because that's been the way it is their entire life. What school choice does is it allows people to conceive of a reality in which they have other options. They have other choices available. It gets them used to the idea of shopping around. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever lived in a place where you have like very limited shopping options, but I have. I grew up in the middle of Vermont. There was like one mall in Vermont and it had like 12 stores in it. And that was where you went on the weekend. Well, this like middle central Vermont. Like you went to the mall that had 12 stores that like you could walk from the beginning to the end and see every store in that mall in like minutes. Like it was tiny, tiny, tiny. We're not even talking like a good strip mall here. Like so I and even after that, like I lived in other rural areas where I had like I had Walmart. I had Walmart and I had Kmart. And Walmart was actually preferable to Kmart. So when I lived in areas where I had very, very limited shopping options, I could not even fathom the idea of like having a Target. Oh my god, a Target would have been great. Or having like a Costco or having like a whole bunch of boutique stores on like a little hipster like community where you can go in and see all the really cool stuff that you can't get at the big box stores. I could not even conceive of a reality in which I had more options from which to choose. Now, when I eventually moved to a place that had more options, this was like a whole new world. Like I went to school in Boston after high school. This was like, holy shit. And I didn't know what to do with it. There was absolutely a transition point from like when I had no options to when I had all of these options that I never had available to me before. Your brain has to get used to the idea of you don't just have to go to like the Walmart, like you can go to like cool trendy places as well. And the same is true with school choice. Because if you've only ever considered this is my town, this is my high school, this is where I have to go, you don't even think about like looking at other things, right? So what school choice does is it gets parents used to the idea of shopping around, of looking at other options. School choice gives them the ability to start to compare and contrast. What do I really want in a school? Like, what do I really care about in a school? Like, my high school didn't have a football team, right? But it was like you couldn't even in for someone who might like football and who wants like a football team, that's going to be considered like they're going to want to go to a high school with a football team. They want to play football. It's their sport. But if you've never had that available, it's kind of like you don't think to put that on your list of like, here are the must-haves I need in a high school. Here are the nice-to-haves, here are the must-haves. So it gets parents used to the idea of like comparing and contrasting schools and figuring out what is really important to them. What do they want their kids to learn? What don't they want their kids to learn? What ideas do they want their kids to be exposed to? What types of activities do they want for their kids? And then they can start comparing and contrasting and really deciding what is the best option for them. I love school choice for that reason. It elicits the necessary cultural change in order to get parents to start looking more critically at the schools and what's going on and evaluating what options they have. So, for that alone, I don't mind school choice. Now, it does bother me a little bit that conservatives, especially, sorry, conservatives, it's just the way it goes, are trying to convince people that school choice is going to fix the entire problem because it's not. It's not. Because the problem does not originate from the schools. The problem originates from the colleges of education. The colleges of education where the teachers are trained. Parents seem to have this idea, and I don't know why they have this idea. I don't know who's lied to them to tell them this. Parents seem to have this idea that schools lay out every single bit of curriculum, hand that curriculum to the teachers and say, you will teach this and only this, and that's all you will teach. And then the teachers go in their classroom and they just like go through the manual and teach whatever the school tells them to teach. That's not how it works, guys. That's not how it works. Once that classroom door closes, those teachers are going to teach whatever the flip they want. And there is no consequence. There is absolutely no consequence for what they teach. Most of the time, parents don't even know what they're teaching. The school doesn't even know what they're teaching. They may even have like an assigned reading list where like they have books that they're supposed to teach and books that have been signed off on. But guess what? Teachers can print shit off the internet and hand out worksheets and do whatever they want. Who even knows? The point I'm making is that if you're talking about actually fixing the problem of schools indoctrinating children, whether that be into critical race theory or like the radical gender stuff or any of that, you have to actually solve for where the problem is coming from. And the problem is not coming from the schools itself. The problem is coming from the colleges of education and the state boards of education that dictate the teacher licensure standards. And then it's going into the schools from there. And so if the only problem you solve for is the schools and giving people an option of where to go, that doesn't actually solve the origin of where the problem is starting. And I'm going to illustrate to you why this is important. Okay. And again, if you want to follow along, I did pin this article to the top of the chat. It's on my Substack, carlin.substack.com, and it is called, aptly, Why School Choice Will Not Fix the Public Schools.